Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the founder of Fantôm agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Chad. He is the CEO over at ScaleX.ai. And first of all, thank you so much for being on here today. It's a pleasure having you. And I've heard that you've been doing some really cool things with the company. So first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your background and everything that you've been doing in order to get to this position, right?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Luis. This is the new book, AI for Sales. So sometimes I think I am wearing a Iron Man suit that looks like that, because the technologies that are available today are so powerful that if you're not wearing the Iron Man suit, then you're probably going to be left behind. So I've been in sales. In fact, I started my career in Arizona, funny enough, back 25 years ago. I worked for a company called Airborne Express, and I would drive through the, through the tarmac there, and we had a couple of airplanes that would go out with packages. And FedEx always had more than a couple. And so after a year, I joined FedEx, and then ever since then, I've been in sales for 25 plus years now. And I started as a rep, bag carrying in Arizona. And now after several moves, I've been in Northern Cal, Southern Cal, North Carolina. Now I'm running my own company, and we're growing faster than we could imagine.
That's really, really cool. So it seems like you've been, quiet in a lot of different places, both physically and also, as far as career-wise goes. So how was it that you kind of got it into the tech side of things?
Yeah, back in 1999, a friend of mine was at FedEx, Steve Lepore, and Steve went out to a company called Annixter that was a reseller of Cisco. And I remember he kind of told me about his W-2 that year and said, I'm about triple of where you are. And I was like, wow, and the folks at FedEx would tell me, hey, if you want to be in sales here, you don't expect to get rich. You can be very happy, but you won't get rich. And I was always kind of like, well, I don't know if happy is as good as rich.
Right.
So that's what caused me to go get an MBA from Loyola Marymount University. And I interviewed several Fortune 500 CEOs and then several tech CEOs. And no matter if it was the Fortune 500 CEO or the tech CEO, they all told me the same thing: leave. And so it was more risky for me to stay in transportation sales, making 6 to 8% margins, than it was to go into technology sales where you're at 60 to 80% margins.
Right.
Think of it like a big piece of pie. If you have a piece of pizza, and in one model, we have to split that 1/8 of the pizza between a lot of people. That's transportation and traditional. In tech, hey, we've got this big pizza. We're only going to keep 2 squares of it. We're going to pass out the other 6/8. Wow.
Yeah. Let's go tech.
It's just math, right? So that's really what caused me to get into tech.
Totally. Very cool. Now, what is, just for the audience to learn a little bit more about ScaleX, what is the one problem that you're essentially solving with your company?
If I were to put it in one word, we solve the pipeline problem, because pipeline's a hard thing to come by these days. And so, do you do outbound? Do you do digital? Do you do phone, email, social? There's all different channels to go to market. How do you figure out what the best level of optimization is with the right message to the right person at the right time to build a sustainable and predictable pipeline over time?
So what does, essentially, let's say that somebody was interested in ScaleX, what does the process look like from getting from a prospect to essentially a client, and what are some of the objections that you might get from them?
Yeah, so the first part is data. It starts with data. So we would go in and understand, who are you selling into now? Who do you want to be selling into? We partner with companies like Discover.org, that now ZoomInfo and RainKing all under one roof. So we have the best data in the world to help us build out the customer's ICP. A lot of times seed round, series A, B, C, they don't necessarily have that all figured out yet. So that's the first thing, is to help them figure out their TAM. Once you've done that, then we also use tools like Bombora to see who's trending, right? What types of tools and technologies are companies in your ICP looking for? Then we help them build out an email, a phone, and a social cadence, 2/3 of which is powered by bots. So traditionally, I've run teams of 30 to 100 people, And I'm always frustrated because the reps go in and we give them a tool. Back in the day, it was called Sales Genius. Now it's called Sales Loft or Outreach. And they go in and they have this little button and it says send all.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, send all, send all, send all. And it got so frustrating. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm paying you like $70,000 a year to personalize these emails.
Yeah.
And so if you're not going to personalize, then why do I need you to do that job? So so we'll go help companies set up a virtual assistant to handle the emails, send and receive. The virtual assistant will help them do their social strategy. What list do they pull? What message do they send? How do they connect? There's profile views, there's sequences. There's a whole lot of things in social that can be done now. And then really where the human interface comes into selling on a top of funnel motion is talking on the telephone.
Yeah.
So we have agent assisted dialing that enables salespeople to talk to 10, 20, 50 people in a day. Instead of making 50 dials, you can click the go button. Now you're talking to 50 people a day.
Yeah.
That's, the combination of everything that I just shared with you is why our customers see 10, 20, even I had one customer that had 168 meetings in 3 months delivered by the AI.
Very cool. And what is essentially I guess the type of deal that you're making with companies? Like, are you working with enterprise deals? Are you working with small businesses? Who is essentially your current, average type of client, and what's your dream client?
Yeah, great question. So we will work with almost anyone now, even down to a really small business. If you have $500 a month, we can give you a social technology called BDR AI that's going to do Twitter likes, it's going to do LinkedIn, it's going to do an awful lot, and that'll book you between 5 and 10 meetings a month. So never in B2B am I aware of a way to build your ICP and book meetings for under $100 a meeting.
Yeah.
Traditionally, meetings in B2B cost $1,200.
Yeah.
So $500 a month plan is for the starter pack. Then once you graduate from that, for $1,500 a month, you get a virtual assistant to send and respond to all your emails. So while I'm on conferences talking on the stage at trade shows, my AI, I actually have 4 virtual assistants now. Right. And you max it out until you hit a place where your day is too busy.
Yeah.
And then you scale back. So 500 plus 15 data usually is about $500 a month. So $2,500 a month will get you 2/3 of what a normal BDR will do, but it'll do it 5 times more effective. And then, the dialing piece, some customers will do 3,000 dials in a month. Other customers, we do 10,000 dials in a month. So that's really the biggest variable cost, because at about $1.25 to $1.50 a dial, when our reps are doing the calls, if you do 10,000 a month, that could cost you $12,000. Totally. Traditionally, that would have cost you $100,000 because you would have had to hire 10 people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So very, very cost effective, especially for the large companies, right? Whether you're looking at either we're hiring through ScaleX or having them do essentially these jobs, or we're having all these 10 people making all these calls per.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing now that we've done the outsource model for 100 customers over the last 18 months, now that we've got that baked, it's real easy for us to go into a company and say, okay, I just got off the phone before this call, in fact, with a guy who had 3 BDRs. He just dropped down to 1, but he has to keep the level of pipeline to where it was. And he said, okay, Chad, what do I do? So I said, all right, we're going to set up a virtual assistant for the social, a virtual for email, and then we're going to enable this guy to do 5,000 dials because his old team was doing 3,000 dials. So I said, for a lot less money, you're now going to have 5,000 touches. You get more for less.
Totally.
So I think what's going to happen is that the economy, when it tips, it will. For those of you on the call who haven't lived through it, be prepared. I don't know if it's tomorrow or next year or 2 years from now, but when it does, our phone's going to be lighting up because holy cow, I have to riff 30% of my team, but I still have to keep the same amount of pipeline.
100%.
AI for sales helps you do that.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. So as far as obviously, marketing this product, ScaleX, how do you go about, what are the marketing channels that you're currently using to get new customers for yourself?
So I have to drink my own champagne. So if I wasn't using AI for sales, I'd be kind of silly. What I've discovered, though, is that by adding digital on top, it actually can give you a 3 to 5x lift on the outbound you're doing. So I'm coming out and I'm under development right now. It's a product called persuadable.ai.
Okay.
And what that's going to do is you're sending out all those emails every day. You're doing all the social. Let's take that same list of people. Let's aggregate the spend across all my 100 clients and push that through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social channels, so that while an active outbound campaign's going to the ICP, we're also digitally advertising them so that when they get on their telephone and they're on LinkedIn, they start seeing the ScaleX brand pop up with video.
Just really becoming omnipresent essentially for pretty much every single channel that can.
Exactly. Traditionally, you'd go buy a Terminus or a Triblio and you'd spend a couple grand a month just on the software. Then you'd hire a high-end sales and marketing VP that would cost you a lot of money, and then you put the ad spend on top. Usually, that's a couple hundred grand by the time you're all in. We're really saying, hey, we've got the tools, technologies, and know-how. So instead of spending 200, 300 grand in a year to get the same results, hey, why don't you just give us an extra $1,000 a month, and we'll go digitally advertise to all those folks across all channels.
That's really cool. That's awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're currently faced with, at ScaleX?
So I just did a webinar a while back with Joel Laban. He's the head of sales and marketing program and digital transformation at Johns Hopkins University. And I had Anita Nielsen, who wrote the book, Beat the Bots. So we wanted to make sure to have both sides in the equation, right? And we had Nancy Nardin from Vendor Neutral. So we had quite the pairing of us on the panel. And what we talked about is one customer of ours booked 168 meetings in 3 months. They're called Max Sold. In fact, we're writing a Harvard Business Review article right now on this specific case study. Here's the challenge. They only have one sold deal out of 168 meetings. So the AI can do its job, but then when it comes to the human, do I have the right person in the seat?
Yeah.
Are they saying the right things? And do I have the right business model? Because in this case, they were going after the channel for the very first time in their company history. And so selling into a realtor is different than selling into the end customer.
Right.
And so they had to reconfigure. In fact, we're in process of reconfiguring what it is they sell to the realtor. We're going to close that gap. We actually added qualification questions. So instead of 168, they should have only gotten 80, right? So we're going to hone it in on the people who qualify using AI. And then once they get there, we're working on the rep with coaching and communication skills for a B2B call. So that's moving up. And then a new contract that's purpose-built for the reseller channel. By the time we get all those three things done, we suspect we can get that close rate up to a 10, 20, 30% close rate instead of a 1 in 168.
And that makes complete sense too, because, being a marketing agency, like we've been there multiple times where you have a client and they want to start advertising. They want to dump a lot of money into ads, and you get them all the leads, you get really good results for them, etc. But the problem is that they can't finish the job, right? So like they have all the leads. Are your sales reps essentially doing their job, actually closing them? But I guess, that comes down to like those two things that you mentioned. Are the leads qualified? And typically they are, based on what we do as far as, making sure that we have qualification questions on there. And then is the rep doing everything that they can do? So it comes down to like, is your team trained enough to actually close all the deals that they're getting? And that's, I guess, another conversation. And also, I guess in this point for like you and I, right, do we have to take a step back and look at what kind of clients we're closing and maybe audit them before we actually take them on?
Well, and that's where I think at the bottom of my book here, you'll see Chorus is one of the sponsors. Or one of the chapters that we covered. Sponsor is probably the wrong word. One of the chapters is on Chorus conversation intelligence. So as you increase the number of leads coming through, then turning on conversation intelligence and having an expert listen to those calls on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to notice very early where's the where's the train coming off the tracks?
Yeah.
Is it in qualification? Is it in the demo? I just listened to a really good Gartner webinar this week, and they talked about this very problem. And they said there's a lot of reps want to tell, right? Let me tell you all about how cool we are. There's only a handful of reps. I'm going to have to open the file just to remember what the term was, because it was so amazing that, hang on. Let me make sure I find this. Okay, here you go. Giving. So their primary strategy is, let me just give you a lot of information. That doesn't work in today's world. There's telling, where you share my own perspective with the buyer. Well, my view is that this and this and this. Yeah, okay, that's better probably than giving. Telling's a little better. But sense making is the one that drives the most sales. They guide the customer to evidence. And so kind of challenger sale-ish, but it's not my perspective. It's here's what the data says, right? Like with MaxSold, when we put in the qualification questions, they went from 168 meetings booked or replies to 168 meetings, 1-to-1. Once we put in qual questions about a month ago, now they're at about 30 down to 10. So 2/3 of the garbage is being, crossed out before it gets to the rep.
Right.
So yeah, lot of things you need to work on as you implement AI for sales. That's for sure.
Definitely. And what is, let's kind of switch gears into like the personal side of things when building a company. What is one of the most challenging things that you find yourself like day after day kind of, coming across with, that it's something that you're currently kind of working on, overcoming?
Yeah. So I built my own company 15 years ago, and I waited another 15 years purposefully until I had leadership and management experience. So I thought, okay, this time around, I'm ready. I got this. And so first month on the job, 337,000 in bookings. High five. This company's going to the moon. We're good. Next quarter, 350,000. Next quarter, 400,000. And it just keeps growing. My biggest challenge is that I've always been a sales leader and not a CFO, not a financial leader. And so what I've discovered is it's equally important to look at the margin on a customer, not just the top line revenue, right? If you close $100,000 deal and it costs you $110 to deliver, that may not be a good business model, unless of course you're buying the market, in which case you have a lot of VC money. We don't take any outside VC or private equity money, and therefore making sure that we're providing the highest level of value to the customer while still earning a legitimate, reasonable margin. That I think is the biggest thing that kind of jumped out at me over the last year and a half.
So do you think that kind of, puts in your mind that you have to delegate things while growing, or are you the type of person that wants to almost do everything? That's
a real good question. I want to learn the CFO job. So I have really gotten familiar with QuickBooks. I look month over month. I know what my margins are. I know from a month to month basis. And I've also, I'm not quite as micromanaging it like that. For the first 2 or 3 months I was. Then I found out where my most important costs were coming from. And now I've worked to figure out how do I reduce those costs by half or more. So if you can look at your top 2 or 3 costs in a company, figure out a way to lower those costs by a significant amount and keep your top line the same, now your bottom line looks really, really clean. So that's what I've done on that side. When it comes to selling motion, I am really focused on building a virtual channel sales model right now. So over the weekend, literally, I've been pushed by some mentors to say, Chad, you got to let go of the reins. And I'm good at that as soon as I have the product and service that I'm comfortable with selling. So we've had enough customers now that I can now build a virtual team. I don't plan to go hire people with huge base salaries and OTE right now. I'm looking for entrepreneurs who want to change how they go to market and help them build their businesses successfully.
Very cool. Very awesome. Now, what is your biggest accomplishment?
My family. I wrote down when I was very early, in Arizona, in fact, I went to one of these success seminars, and they said, write down your 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. And in my 10-year goal, I had it's hard. You can fill out 1 year in no time.
Yeah.
The 10-year goal is like, oh, wow, that's a long ways away. And so it was married with kids and a boat and about 8 other things. The only thing I didn't do, I was married with kids within 5 years of the time that I did that.
Okay.
And then the only thing I haven't done is bought a boat, but I have a really good friend who owns one, so I don't think I'll ever check that one off the list.
Maybe he'll watch this. He knows it's coming. That's good. What are your favorite SaaS companies, essentially, that you kind of, look up to as far as what they're doing, the way that they're doing things, and so on?
The number one right now is Discover.org. I think Henry Schuck is one of the best leaders that I've ever met. I call him a personal friend as well as a business mentor, business colleague. Like, he's all the above. This company and the way they do things is built in a competitive way. It's not, I think a lot of companies that we find out there now say, hey, however you want to do it. If you want to do email, phone, social, I don't care, just do your best, and the scorecard at the end of the year will work. And I think Discover.org says they might take a little of that prescription, but you're not going to get the leads if you don't have a high close rate. And so they kind of give you the prescription and say, hey, here's what our top producers do activity-wise. And if you do those and you close at a 35% rate or whatever that is, you're going to get the A leads.
Right.
If you don't, you're going to get the B's and the C's, and then you have to work your way back up. And if you're an A, you could be bumped back down to a C.
Yeah.
Welcome to America. I think, to me, you got to fight hard and work hard and win. And so feed the strong is how it works. And therefore people produce. I just heard their VP of sales talk at an event, and I learned that for the first time. And I was like, I knew I liked Henry.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. And if you had one piece of advice for anyone that's building a company or wants to start their own software company, what would that be?
Don't get your head over your skis. I think a lot of companies say build it and they will come.
Yeah.
And they might spend 6 to 12 months of money and time. And then they say, here's my calculator. Are you ready to buy it? And they go, no, I have a calculator on my phone. I don't really need that big honking piece of machinery anymore. So, sell the concept. I mean, like I said, we sold 35,000 before I joined the company. That afforded me the opportunity to join the company full time. And it gave me about a 1 month head start because that 35 grand with whatever margin was left allowed me to make money for a month. Then that next month got me to the 337,000, which got me to the 1.5 million. So I think too many people just go out and they spend a lot of time and money. Man, sell the concept, sell the idea, build the software on the back end, or use other people's software and sell that.
How much research would you say, and this is obviously like, it depends, right? It might be the right answer, but like, how much research should you be making before you actually start building something?
I purposefully went to a technology company in Denver for 2.5 years to do the quote unquote research in that company. I went in, I took the team from 20 people to well over 100. We implemented a lot of methodologies and technologies, and I got to try things and discover what was broken in that engine. Once I know it's broken, then I got to go take it to a company where I was interim VP of sales. I said, hey, John, give me 6 months. I'll put in all of the AI for sales tech stack. And at the end of 6 months, we'll probably part ways because you'll be effective and you can give it to someone else. Yeah. So I got to now take those 2.5 years of learning, put it into a 6-month project. That's when I wrote the first AI for sales book. And then now the rest is history, right? I already have a case study. We took a team from 28 people down to 20. We 5x the sales activities and we 2x the revenues.
That's awesome.
And I was like, okay, this dog hunts. I could do that time and time again. So research on the job is better than researching on your own dime.
100%. And last question here. Do you have any questions for me?
So Fantôm SaaS AdLab, it seems like from our discussion, we should be talking about some partnership opportunities. how do you envision, the sales motion and the marketing motion playing nicely together in line with what I talked to you about Persuadable? Is there some partnering areas there?
I think there definitely is. And like you heard earlier, like there's sometimes that kind of like mismatch as far as the salespeople at these companies and essentially like the marketing results, whether you get all these leads, they take them, they don't do anything with them, they close a very small percentage of them. So like, I guess, the conversation is like, how can we find those synergies to put two together and kind of sell that product on the back end that's a complete solution to what they don't necessarily have.
Love it. I'm getting asked more and more and more because once you AIify, if that's a word, the top of the funnel with digital, with phone, with email, you build that, then the next not logical backlog is pushed down, right? You ever have one of those little snakes when you're a kid? It's a water balloon snake.
Yeah.
You push on one side and it falls out.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's happening right now, right? We're solving the top of the funnel to a level where it's
100%.
automated, consistent. Well, now there's a break in the middle. And so it's as simple as plugging in Chorus, running a once a week sales training and mentorship with that customer. And you can tune those dials to have a much better close rate.
100%. So we'll definitely talk about that offline. And again, thank you so much for being on here, Chad. It was a pleasure having you. And I think everyone will enjoy the conversations that we had, every little bit of insight that you shared with everyone. And hopefully they'll reach out and get the Sales AI book. I think that'd be awesome. And I'll talk to you soon.
Excellent. ScaleX.ai. Check it out. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Luis.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.